Good morning. Welcome. It is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. We are 2 days ahead of the potential OTA adjustments here in Marvel Snap, and I log in this morning, and we have another potential leak. So let's make a couple of things clear, okay? Number one, this is not confirmed, but I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about it because some of this has coincidental timing. And some of this is absolutely insane. If this ends up going live in its current condition, it will definitely have an immediate impact on all of Marvel Snap. If you like this type of content, please let me know. Comment down below, like the channel. Let's take a look at the unconfirmed potential leak here for the OTA on May 23rd, 2 days ahead of time. Let's take a look at what we got here, okay? Second Dinner has not confirmed or denied this potential leak, but it has some things in it that I want to talk about. So let's just dive right into it. First and foremost, right off the bat, Captain America. Because Captain America has been one that we have been crying for weeks now at this point. We have been crying for such a legendary character to potentially, get some love, because he's so iconic in today's world for Marvel, right? He's such an incredible piece, no pun intended, to Disney, an incredible piece of the Marvel lore that brought MCU to its ultimate fruition. That why is he not a better card? And I understand the hesitation to constantly touch Series 1 cards, but they finally did. They finally changed him from a 3/3 giving +1s to the other cards in the location to specifically being a 3/2 where your other ongoing cards here have +2 power. This speaks heavily to Series 1 without completely ruining the meta, okay? Here's why. I've talked about it over the last year or so that if you're a brand new player to Marvel Snap, one of the best things you can do is run a Spectrum ongoing deck. Spectrum ongoing decks need some strength to survive, and this is going to help reinforce that. By not having the ongoing ability be consistently pushing to all cards in that location, it allows you to focus his ability to an ongoing thing. So there is this double-edged sword where, yes, you're probably going to have to play Captain America with the Cosmo. You are getting limited in that aspect, but you're protected with a really good amount of power that gets Captain America up to a 3/8 without having to be like, look, you can just plug and play this into literally any deck at any given point in time. They were supposed to, in my opinion, bring this to all cards. Last week on the Snapcast, I proposed Captain America being a 3/2 that gave +2s. Exactly. The difference is they added on the ongoing asterisk, and sitting here looking at it this morning prior to the stream, it makes a lot more sense because he's a Series 1 card that should be reinforcing Series 1 cards, and most of the Series 1 cards are ongoings. So I'm actually okay with this being the adjustment. It's like a stepping stone because this is a dial. This is another dial. They can change that later on if they decide that Captain America giving it to only ongoing cards is not enough. They can remove that ongoing restriction and everybody can get it. This is a good thing for Captain America. I saw 3/8 as a top potential ceiling for him and that being completely fine. I like that they've added the restriction as a stepping stone to seeing if 3/8 is something that we have to worry about with Cap too regularly, or is keeping the filtration of him with other ongoings a good enough ceiling that doesn't have a downside. So I like that for Captain America here as a potential change. I would rate this a big thumbs up that this is an overall improvement, because we could see also Captain America make an appearance into certain pieces like, Cerebro 2, which really looks for more ways to get reinforcement And this is a good way to be able to do it because you can play in your Cerebro and your Mystique into the Captain America lane, and all three of them now are presenting power competitively. I like this. I like this. I like this. Spectrum. Spectrum losing a point of power. Okay. In that exact same light, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense because they're benefiting that Spectrum ongoing deck that we're talking about from Series 1. And right now in the current meta, people are really pushing heavily on this Spectrum deck, even in high competitive play. That 6-7 buff that they gave Spectrum several months ago now is starting to come re-bite them back in the butt. So it's time to droop it down just a tad. They dropped it down just a little bit. Again, just a little bit, and took away a point of power. I don't think this is going to really tremendously hurt the play lines of what you want to do from Spectrum decks, but it does help to restrict that specific lane as a standalone 7-point card on the final turn of the game, especially if you're playing it with an Iron Man. That's where you're going to end up feeling it the most. I'm pretty okay with this as is. Spectrum losing a power. I'm indifferent about it, and I get it. So that's fine, okay? Luke Cage. Luke Cage is also losing a point of power. You're seeing a pattern here. This Spectrum ongoing deck, it looks like they're very worried about it getting out of control, and they're bringing in some extra restrictions. So now they've taken that point of power that they put onto Luke Cage, who's gone through so many different changes at this point. Next turn, 2 cost, 3 cost, 3 power, 4 power, now back to 3 power, but still 3 cost. And you can't, and it still keeps the AoE effect, which in my opinion is the more appropriate piece for him. He was still a good vanilla stat line card at 3-4. Absolutely was fantastic. But now bringing him down to a 3-3. I don't think that this lowers his ceiling. I think it raises it. I absolutely think this raises it because, and I quote, in the bottom line right down there.
Surprise attacks!
As we get raided by K-Fet, welcome on in. As we're recording right now, the potential leaks that are happening here in Marvel Snap, okay? This 3-3 and also paves the way to slot Luke into successful Cerebro shells once more. They're willing to put Luke Cage back into Cerebro 3. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So on the one end, you've got Cerebro 2 getting a buff, and you've got Cerebro 3 getting a buff, times 2. Why? Because they also changed Baron Mordo. Baron Mordo is still a 2-3, but got better. It's confusing. It took me like 4 times reading it, but it's confusing. And check this out. Now Baron Mordo went from a 2-3 to a 2-3, but the text on the on-reveal changed. It's now the top card of your opponent's deck costs 6 until turn 6. So instead of it drawing a card and setting its cost to 6, they're changing Baron Mordo to change the cost of the top card on your opponent's deck. And the next turn, they draw that 6-costed, newly costed card. This stops a lot of chaos all by itself. This stops the deck thinning process. This isn't going to make Baron Mordo an absolutely 9-1-1 card, but at the same time, it kind of does, because it bricks a key card from your opponent's hand. And yes, it never feels good when you pull a 6-cost card that Baron Mordo tried to make a 6. Absolutely, that bricks it, that sucks. This is going to create the same exact style of effect, but more importantly, this bricks a draw before turn 6. And to me, that is 10 times more important and shouldn't be undervalued. Think of it like this. If you played Korg on turn 2, your opponent has a 44% chance of drawing that rock that you've added to their deck. If you've done that, you've basically given them a 50-50 shot to ruin a draw. So if you're playing Baron Mordo on turn 2, that means you're guaranteeing a bricked card on turn 3. Turn 3, bricked card. Automatically, can't play it until turn 6. I'm completely okay with that, and I think that people are going to sleep on how good of an effect this is. Because bricking a card and ruining an entire draw is very key. Because right now, combo decks are very important. Big combo decks want certain cards in certain orders or want them played by certain times. If it's going to keep that 6 cost all the way until the final turn of the game, chances are that's a brick card more than anything else. More than I think people are going to value this for. I think that this is going to be a slept-on adjustment if this goes live in its current state as a 2/3. And I think Baron Mordo starts seeing a lot more play slowly as people play more into it. Very, very annoying card. Not good, not great, just really incredibly annoying if this is the case. So between Luke Cage and Baron Mordo, we might see some really annoying, keyword, some really annoying Cerebro 3s in the upcoming weeks. Get ready for it. Kind of excited for the chaos this might cause. Grandmaster. Grandmaster getting a change. Getting 2 power added to it. And I'm sad about this. I'm really sad about this. I did not want Grandmaster to get 2 power. I wanted him to get 1. I really, really wanted him to get 1. I did. Because then you would have been able to Ravona it. But instead, they had the foresight to say, okay, we're going to force you to play this as a 2-cost card, unless if it's Sarah, and that's it. This makes me sad that you can't still Ravona Grandmaster and then give it a little more power. But now it's a 2/2. We're going to see what those on reveals now do as a 2/2. I don't know if this necessarily fixes Grandmaster and his playability, but it definitely helps. It absolutely helps to give some power into that very specific lane. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe we start seeing some weird combinations with Cap. Because it allows those ongoings. You play your on reveals on the left. Grandmaster can move it to the mid, but it doesn't get the Captain America buff, and it fills that lane because you've also put in the Cerebro 2, the Captain America, the Cerebro, and the Mystique. But the on-reveal card doesn't get the Cap buff, so you don't lose the Cerebro 2-ness. Like, Cerebro is going to be a very important card. Everybody just get your Rogues, get your Echoes, get your everything's ready, because we're going to see Cerebros tested a lot if this goes live in this condition. Grandmaster at 2/2. I don't know if this is a buff, but we're going to try. We're going to try it. I'm very hesitant on it. I would have much preferred 2/1, so we could still have that flexibility on turns 3 and 4 with it being a 1-cost via Ravona. Now I'm much less eager to play it. And then there's the big one, in my opinion. The big one, I have called for this on this channel, on so many different videos, on so many different podcasts. Werewolf by Night, exactly where he should be, finally at 3/1. Finally. This is what they should have done to Werewolf by Night from the very beginning. Bounce 100% is back. Because now a 3/1 Werewolf by Night getting +2s. Man, I'm going to be bringing back my Werewolf Zoo deck with all of the 1-cost on reveals and bouncing the hell out of Werewolf by Night. Now we have even more tools that we can mess with it, and more synergies that we've learned are ridiculously good and fantastic too. So this is going to be an incredibly fun card to retest again. Incredibly fun card to retest again, because Werewolf by Night should be a good card in Marvel Snap. It should be. It should be a valuable card in Marvel Snap. But man, seeing it at 3/1, which means you could even get that Ravona'd for a 2-cost. There are some decks that we need to really experiment with here right now. Sage decks with Ravona and Werewolf by Night are going to be huge. Huge, 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 huge. I love this idea with Werewolf by Night. I love this idea. He's such a good card. He was such a good card, and they were too scared of him, and then they backed him out. And if this goes live as a 3-1, oh man, he's going to be great. I really hope that this comes out. I hope that this leak is true. I really do. Because if this comes out as a 3-1, yeah, big win. Leader, getting a point of power going to a 6-3. I'm kind of indifferent on this one. I'm kind of indifferent. Just because Leader has a very specific play. You know, it's a prio play. And we're seeing more and more Leader because, as kind of they discuss over in here, Red Hulk, we're seeing more games be decided by just 1 6-cost card as the final turn move. And not even synergetic ones like Hela that are deck dependent. I'm talking just in general, plop down a Magneto, plop down a Giant Ebony Blade, plop down, etc. Right? We're seeing more and more of those. So him getting an extra power for Leader, I don't think that has any major effect on the game. I think this is just a change to make a change. I'm just kind of meh over the whole situation, but it's a change worth noting that they want Leader to be a tiny bit better. Not much, but a tiny bit better, just to give more defense against those Red Hulks, you know, the big cards, Gigantos, Infinauts, you know, your huge power cards towards the very end. But speaking of green guys, y'all, it's happening. They've listened. Second Dinner has listened. They have listened, and they have seen the results of their errors. They have seen the results of their errors, and they are reverting Leech back to 5 cost. Thank you. This was such an awful thing, y'all. This was such an awful thing for Marvel Snap. I see what they were doing. I see why they were doing it. But man, it just made Marvel Snap so unfun. And Leech needed to be played at a cost. If you're going to remove your big final end of the game play, it need to come at a cost. And the fact that they're changing him from 4-2 to 5-5 is proof that they realized the things that they were looking to do with this 4-2 Leech did not work. The community hated it, but they can still give it a buff simultaneously. So instead of going back to 5-3 like he was, and they said it right there, he's just not really playable at 5-3. Now they put him at 5-5, which is the death, if you will, positioning, right? That's where they put Adam Warlock. So Leech, now same thing. It's now the death positioning for the card. So in one way, it's a buff because it's better than it used to be 2 months ago. But at the same a couple weeks ago. But at the same time, it's a huge nerf because now it's ruining your turn 5 at the sacrifice of having a chance on turn 6. So Leech at 5-5 feels more in line with what Leech wants to do, but doesn't completely ruin all of Marvel Snap. It still hurts Marvel Snap. Let me get that clear. This still hurts Marvel Snap. Because Leech, in its current form of bricking all Yon reveals on turn 5, it's really still not a fun play. And you're going to see people playing it at 5-5, absolutely. But, and I still think Leech should just do, even at 4, just your next on reveal. Just the next on reveal played by your opponent removes its ability. Leech doesn't, just deactivates it, essentially. But if they're going to brick the hand, don't let it happen on turn 4. And then also let it get blinked. Like, the timing with the blink was just something I never understood. I said it then, and I'll say it again. I really don't understand why they waited for this. This makes no sense. Made no sense to me. But, man. This warms my heart. Y'all, this is proof that Second Dinner listens. This is proof that Second Dinner listens. They see the community. They see the statistics. I think the community had more of a change on this than the stats did, in my personal opinion, with no information about it. This reversion is because we hated it. So this is why Second Dinner is good at their job. They listen, have ideas, they take feedback, and they make changes as appropriately needed. This is the fastest reversion to a buff I have ever seen Second Dinner make because of the immediate backlash from all of the community. Lastly, I'm going to take a victory lap here to end quote KM Best. They changed Sentry, which is what I was talking about literally on the Snapcast last week. Same thing as Cap. Talked about it with that change too. This one, I was talking specifically about changing only the Void to a 4-8. Because I think that Sentry should still be Shang-Chi at 410. Instead, they are keeping the lore line in play at the plus-minus of 8 and -8. So yeah, it hurts Scar a little bit. But at the same time, with the decline of Shang-Chi over the last couple of weeks, it does make a little bit more sense because we're not seeing Shang-Chi in 40% of decks anymore. We're seeing it in like 20% of decks nowadays. And because of that, that can justify Sentry dropping down itself also from 410 to 4-8, just like the Void going from 4-10 to 4-8. It's still a very good thing because that package, as I talked about with Ken and Sino, that package is, you could plop that package into almost any deck and it's a very strong combination. It's a very, very strong package to work with. And 4-8 is much more dealable than 410. But 410 was a very easy deal if you had the key card counter. The problem is we don't have the key card counter as often as we used to. We don't see it as much. The meta is not calling for it as much. We're much more looking at a 4-8 being more viable as a downside than it was to keep 410 as a downside. So they get to keep the lore of the plus minus of Sentry and Void by keeping them 8 and 8 because the meta currently can permit that. So I'm happy to see the Annihilus package take what is equivocally a 6-point hit, 2 off of the Sentry, and a 4-point swing off of the Annihilusing of the Void to the other side. That's a lot of power being changed on the battlefield by changing one card. And to weaken that package in particular is pretty good right now. Pretty good right now. We're going to start heading into the small balls more and more and more. We're going to start seeing more combo decks start to come on back, being more important again, especially with Namora. Namora coming out this week. From the time of this recording, she'll be out in like 5.5 hours roughly. Like there's a lot to work with here, but we should all be celebrating the Leech change. We should all be celebrating the Werewolf by Night change. We should all be celebrating this version of Captain America. I understand exactly what Second Dinner is going for here with these changes. They are trying to better the new player experience while impacting the current late game experience simultaneously. That's how I read all of these changes. We want to change the overall landscape of Marvel Snap by hitting some very key specific cards in packages. And I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of these changes if they go live as they are stated. Because if they do, and they go live exactly like this, yeah, this is a win. But again, let me make this clear one last time here at the very end of the video. This is unconfirmed by Second Dinner. We do not know if these will be actual implementations. We do not know if this is 100% real. But based on what I saw from the last one, where we 2 weeks ago had another change, and then it was a leak, and it came out exactly as is, the pattern fits. I would not be surprised if this all was 100% true, just leaked early again, which speaks heavily to Newverse and Second Dinner looking into the source of this style of leak. I hope these go live as is, because all of these are very healthy things for Marvel Snap overall. The buffs and the nerfs, and with the emergence of Nomura this week, I think this is a very good thing. I like this list. Which of these were your favorites? I appreciate you all hanging out, watching, and taking the asterisk along the way with what could be a very interesting change in Marvel Snap. Thank you all so much for watching. See you all next time. If only someone here could say if the patch is true or not. I know, Matthias, I know. It'd be great, but here's the thing. It is currently 6:45 in the morning on the West Coast. No one's going to be able to do that. No one's going to be able to confirm or deny it, but no one from Second Dinner or from Newverse will confirm it, even if it is true. And honestly, the good thing about content is, especially as someone in the Marvel Snap Creator Program, we can talk about it amongst us as creators. We can look at this as a good thing to create content on. But I also respect the fact that we can't know 100% if this is true or not. And I give my perfect example to this. Hang on. I'm going to put an asterisk on here because, you know, we are talking about it, and the perfect example to this is there was an update. There was an OTA change a couple of months ago where Venom actually got a change to a 4/5. And it didn't go live in game, but it was live in the OTA announcement on the Marvel Snap website. And I want to use that as a perfect example to me of, we don't know if, even though our source might be pretty reliable, sometimes they make these types of changes and then also make last minute reductions of them too. They might say, you know what, maybe we don't go live with this change yet. Maybe we test it a little bit further. Maybe we hold on to this change for another time because it doesn't have to affect the meta right now, but it's good to know that this is a healthy change for the future. We don't know this yet. So because we don't know this yet, that makes me very happy that we can talk about it open-ended, knowing that all of this is subject to change. I just personally think that it's definitely the case. I personally think that this is going to be the case, with no proof from Second Dinner, with no proof from Newverse, just guttural feeling, looking at where I know the source came from. I rely that source, so that's what I personally. I think it's real. And I really hope it is in its entirety.